A 19-year-old girl stood in Judge Anderson's courtroom and said 5 words that would end her privileged life forever. "My dad will fix this." The crash happened at 2:47 a.m. 3 cars totaled, 2 people hospitalized. Her blood alcohol level was 0.16, double the legal limit. But Madison Sterling, daughter of Hollywood's highest-paid actor, believed none of that mattered. She was wrong. What happened in the next 20 minutes would prove that fame, wealth, and celebrity connections mean absolutely nothing when you've endangered lives. The night started like any other Tuesday for Madison Sterling. Bottle service at an exclusive West Hollywood club where her last name guaranteed entry and her father's credit card guaranteed everything else. She posted Instagram stories throughout the night, champagne bottles, dancing with other celebrity children, hashtags about living her best life. At 2:30 a.m., security suggested she call a car. Madison laughed and dangled her Mercedes keys. "I'm fine," she told them, words slurred but confident. "I've driven worse than this." 15 minutes later, she ran a red light at the intersection of Sunset and Vine, traveling at 67 miles per hour in a 35 zone. Her Mercedes clipped a Toyota Camry, sending it spinning into oncoming traffic where it collided with a pickup truck. The impact sent Madison's car airborne. It flipped twice before crashing into a traffic light pole. The Toyota's driver was Robert Chen, a 67-year-old retired postal worker driving home from his night shift as a hospital janitor. He worked 2 jobs to pay for his granddaughter's college tuition. The crash left him with 3 broken ribs and a shattered collarbone. The pickup truck belonged to Sarah Martinez, a nurse finishing a double shift at Cedars-Sinai. She suffered a concussion and whiplash that would keep her out of work for 6 weeks. 6 weeks without pay. Madison Sterling walked away with a scratch on her forearm. When Officer Williams arrived at the scene, he found Madison sitting on the curb, scrolling through her phone. Not checking on the victims, not calling for help, texting her father's assistant about a situation that needs handling. "Ma'am, I need you to step over here for a sobriety test," Officer Williams said, noting the smell of alcohol that surrounded her like expensive perfume. Madison looked up, annoyed. "Do you know who I am?" "Ma'am, I need you to—" "I'm Madison Sterling, Marcus Sterling's daughter. Maybe you've heard of him? He's literally the biggest movie star in the world." She stood, wobbling slightly. "So maybe instead of harassing me, you should be helping those people." Officer Williams had been a cop for 19 years. He'd arrested drug dealers, gang members, and violent criminals. But he'd rarely encountered arrogance this pure. This girl had just destroyed 3 vehicles, sent 2 people to the hospital, and her primary concern was whether he recognized her famous father. "Ma'am, I need you to perform a field sobriety test right now." Madison rolled her eyes. "Fine, but this is such a waste of time." She couldn't walk a straight line, couldn't stand on one foot, couldn't touch her nose with her eyes closed. When the breathalyzer registered .16, Officer Williams placed her under arrest. That's when Madison made her first phone call, not to her father, but to Benjamin Cross, the attorney who'd made 17 previous DUIs disappear for various Sterling family members and associates. "Ben, it's Madison. I need you to fix something. Like, right now." By the time she reached the police station, 3 high-priced lawyers were already there. By morning, she'd been released on bail, posted by one of her father's production companies. By noon, those lawyers had filed motions to suppress evidence, challenge the breathalyzer, and delay the court date. But Judge Michael Anderson wasn't impressed by motions, and he definitely wasn't impressed by celebrity attorneys. 6 weeks later, Madison Sterling walked into Department 34 of Los Angeles Superior Court like she was attending a movie premiere. Designer outfit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Sunglasses worn indoors. an entourage of 3 lawyers, her father's publicist, and 2 assistants whose job was apparently to hold her phone and coffee. Judge Anderson watched this circus enter his courtroom with the weary patience of someone who'd seen it all before. At 58 years old, with 22 years on the bench, he'd presided over cases involving gang members, white-collar criminals, and everything in between. But the entitled rich kids were always the most exhausting. "Ms. Sterling," the clerk called. "The state of California versus Madison Elizabeth Sterling. Driving under the influence, reckless endangerment, vehicular assault." Madison approached the bench slowly, her lead attorney, Benjamin Cross, beside her. Behind them, her father's publicist was already typing on her phone, probably drafting the statement they'd release after this misunderstanding was resolved. "Ms. Sterling," Judge Anderson began, looking at the case file. "You're charged with DUI with a blood alcohol level of 16, 2 counts of vehicular assault, reckless driving, and leaving the scene of an accident. Do you understand these charges?" Madison glanced at her lawyer, who nodded. "Yes, Your Honor," she said, her tone suggesting this was all very tedious. "How do you plead?" Before her attorney could speak, Madison leaned toward the microphone. "Your Honor, I think there's been a huge misunderstanding here." Judge Anderson raised an eyebrow. "A misunderstanding?" "Yes, I had a couple drinks, but I wasn't drunk. The breathalyzer was probably broken. And the accident, it was just that. An accident. People have fender benders all the time." Benjamin Cross put his hand on Madison's arm, trying to quiet her, but she continued. "Plus, those people are fine, right? I heard they went to the hospital, but they're okay. So really, this is all being blown way out of proportion." Judge Anderson set down his pen. "Ms. Sterling, 2 people were seriously injured. Mr. Chen has medical bills exceeding $80,000. Ms. Martinez lost 6 weeks of income. You're calling this a fender bender?" Madison shrugged. "Your Honor, with all respect, my family can cover their medical bills. We'll write them a check today. So really, there's no victim here. Everyone gets compensated, and we can all move on." The courtroom went silent. Even her attorneys looked uncomfortable. "You want to write them a check?" Judge Anderson repeated slowly. "Yes, whatever they need. My dad makes $20 million a movie. The money's not a problem." Judge Anderson removed his glasses. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but carried the weight of absolute authority. "Ms. Sterling, do you believe justice can be purchased?" Madison blinked. Isn't that how this works? People pay fines, cases get settled. I'm just trying to make this easier for everyone." "Your Honor," Benjamin Cross interjected, "my client is simply expressing willingness to make restitution." "Your client," Judge Anderson said, his gaze never leaving Madison, "believes her father's wealth exempts her from accountability." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Madison's face. This wasn't going according to script. Usually by now, someone had whispered to the judge, made a call, smoothed things over. "Ms. Sterling, let me tell you about the 2 people you put in the hospital. Robert Chen works 2 jobs at age 67 because his son died 3 years ago, and he's paying for his granddaughter's medical school. The injuries you gave him mean he can't work his night shift for 3 months. No work means no tuition money. His granddaughter might have to drop out." Madison shifted uncomfortably. "Sarah Martinez is a single mother and ER nurse. The concussion you gave her means she can't work. She has 2 daughters, ages 8 and 11. 6 weeks without pay means they're facing eviction from their apartment. Your check might cover her medical bills, but it can't give her back the security you took from her family." "Your Honor," Madison said, her voice smaller now, "I didn't mean for any of that to happen." "But it did happen. Because you chose to drive drunk. Because you chose to run a red light. Because you chose to prioritize your convenience over everyone else's safety." Madison's lawyer jumped in again. Your Honor, Miss Sterling is a first-time offender. She's young, she made a mistake. She made a choice, Judge Anderson corrected. And when Officer Williams arrested her, what did she do? Did she express remorse? Concern for her victims? No. She asked if he knew who her father was. Madison's face flushed. Someone had clearly reported every word she'd said that night. Your Honor, she tried again, my dad will... Your dad will what? Judge Anderson's voice cut through the courtroom. Fix this, make it disappear, by my decision. This courtroom was completely silent. Madison's publicist had stopped typing. Her lawyers had stopped whispering. Let me be very clear, Ms. Sterling. I don't care if your father is Marcus Sterling or Marcus Aurelius. In this courtroom, you are not a celebrity's daughter. You are a defendant who endangered lives, injured innocent people, and showed zero remorse. Madison's eyes filled with tears. Not tears of remorse, but tears of someone realizing their privilege had finally met its limit. This court sentences you as follows. $5,000 fine, 300 hours of community service to be completed at Los Angeles County Hospital, where you will work directly with trauma victims. Your license is suspended for 18 months. You will attend mandatory alcohol education classes twice weekly for 6 months. And you will write personal letters of apology to Mr. Chen and Ms. Martinez. Madison's mouth opened in shock. Your Honor, that's... I'm not finished. You will also spend 30 days in county jail. Jail? Madison's voice was barely a whisper. You're sending me to jail? Yes, Miss Sterling. Because you need to understand that actions have consequences, and those consequences can't be bought off with your father's money. Your Honor, Benjamin Cross stood quickly. We request bail pending appeal. Denied. Bailiff, take Ms. Sterling into custody. As the bailiff approached with handcuffs, Madison finally broke. Please, Your Honor. I'm sorry, I really am. Please don't do this. Judge Anderson looked at her sadly. Ms. Sterling, if you'd shown this emotion for your victims instead of yourself, we might be having a different conversation. But you came into my courtroom believing your last name would save you. It won't. The handcuffs clicked around Madison's wrists. Her lawyers were shouting about appeals. Her publicist was frantically texting. But Judge Anderson was already calling the next case. 30 days later, Madison Sterling emerged from county jail a different person. She'd shared a cell with women facing real hardships, domestic violence victims, mothers fighting for custody, women struggling with addiction. She'd heard stories that put her privileged life in sharp perspective. She completed every hour of her community service at the hospital, working alongside nurses like Sarah Martinez. She attended every alcohol education class. She wrote letters to Mr. Chen and Ms. Martinez, letters that, for the first time in her life, came from a place of genuine remorse. 6 months after her sentencing, Madison Sterling returned to Judge Anderson's courtroom for a progress hearing. She was dressed simply, without the designer clothes or entourage. Just her, a public defender, and a folder of completion certificates. Ms. Sterling, Judge Anderson said, reviewing her file, I see you've completed all requirements of your sentence. Your community service supervisor says you showed exceptional dedication. The hospital has offered you a permanent volunteer position. Madison nodded. I'd like to accept it, Your Honor. Working there showed me what really matters. What about your father? I assume he wanted to appeal this sentence. He did, but I asked him not to. I needed to face what I'd done. Judge Anderson studied her for a long moment. Ms. Sterling, when you first stood before me, you believed your father could fix everything. What do you believe now? Madison took a breath. I believe some things shouldn't be fixed. They should be faced. For the first time since this case began, Judge Anderson smiled. That's the wisest thing you've said in my courtroom. Your probation is complete, Miss Sterling. I hope you remember what you learned here. I will, Your Honor. Every day. As Madison left the courtroom, she passed Robert Chen in the hallway. He was there for another case, back on his feet, back at work. She approached him nervously. Mr. Chen, I'm Madison Sterling. I just wanted to say again how sorry I am. Robert held up his hand, then extended it for a handshake. I read your letter. I heard what you did at the hospital. Apology accepted. Madison shook his hand, tears streaming down her face. Thank you. You know what the judge did for you? Robert said. He didn't destroy your life, he saved it. Because the path you were on, that would have destroyed you eventually. Madison nodded. I know that now. She walked out of the courthouse into the California sunshine. No cameras, no entourage, no publicist crafting her image. Just a young woman who'd learned that some lessons only come from facing the truth about yourself. And she'd learned it from a judge who believed that real justice isn't about punishment. It's about transformation.